Hey, welcome back to Crimes and Closets. This is Cristy in my closet in St. Louis.
And this is Beth in my closet in North Carolina.
And you guys.
And us in our office in Washington.
Oh,
it's Jess and Brice.
Kind of pretended it was a
with what happens in the woods.
Yeah. We are so excited because we are doing our collab, our annual Halloween collab with What Happens in the Woods. So we have Jess and Brice with us. We were on their feed on Friday, right? Last Friday. And now we are on ours with a whole new set of stories. And so I don't know if you guys want to just give a quick introduction of yourselves for our listeners.
Yeah, tell everyone where they can find you. If they don't know, if they don't already listen to us, which if they do, they know who you are. So, but anyway, for the newbies, for the ones not in the know, please tell them.
Yeah, so I'm Jess and my husband Brice. We are just a little indie podcast. We moved up to Washington a few years ago, and it was just crazy how many crimes originate up here. So we did the thing that everybody was doing, and we started a podcast about it. So we are on all the social media that you can find Crimes in Closets, and we post a couple times a month cases from Pacific Northwest, and we just love meeting you guys, and it's been a fun ride ever since we started, 3 years ago now? Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, you can come find us on our socials on Instagram and everywhere that you can find a podcast. We're there.
Yes.
I think we kind of grew up together.
Right.
We did. We grew up together as a podcast. We started similar times and somehow found each other. We were actually just talking the other day, how did we even connect with them? It's such a magical little Instagram world that we finally found you, that we just ran across you and fell in love and sparks flew, and it was great. And you guys, Jess, I'm going to tell you, she is a research queen. And Brice is a mixing king, or what do you even call that? What you do on the back end. I don't even know, but it's phenomenal. The tech god. And we just love you guys, and you're inspiring to us. And we could not be more excited to collab with you again for our third Halloween collab anniversary.
You're going to make me cry.
Oh, don't do that. There's a lot to do. Don't do that.
No.
It has been so fun. So I can't believe this is the third time that we're doing this. And like I mentioned earlier, we did an episode on their feed last Friday, and it was Brice and Beth on the mic, and they talked some Filipino traditions, which were really cool to hear about. And then cool. Voodoo. So if you want to hear that, go check it out. So, but Beth, do we have anything else? We don't have any because we don't have any shout outs. Well, actually I do have one. Sorry guys. I have a shout out because it's Halloween. This is dropping on Halloween. And I went to the best Halloween party of my life last weekend. And Britt is my neighbor, and she is the best hostess, Halloween party hostess. And she also listens. And I just wanted to be hey, Britt, thanks for having me on for Halloween party. And it was awesome. We had a good time. And thanks for listening to us. So there's my shout out to Britt.
Hey, Britt.
Shout out, Britt. Hey, Britt.
So if we don't have anything else, I guess we can just kind of get right into it. We're good for that?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
what do you have for us?
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, I kind of got a weird story for you. It's about an exorcism.
Oh.
I don't know if you guys how do you guys feel about exorcisms? What are your thoughts?
They scare me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I can handle a lot of things, but demonic possession, I want no part.
Right. Yeah, I don't either. But do you necessarily believe that it actually happens?
I kind of do.
Yeah.
I I think that there are a lot of things that get, mental illness can portray a lot of things. And I think historically, a lot of people who were mentally ill, that's what they said. It was a demon,
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that I do believe in supernatural things. So I do personally.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Some of them that like you've seen on video, man, there's just, I'm of a logical mind. So I try to like think things away. And there are some videos I just can't think them away. You know what I mean? Like logically. So I don't know. It's, I do believe in the supernatural.
Okay. Beth, you?
Yes.
No?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I believe in all things spooky.
Yeah.
I don't want any part
of
it, and we'll sage the room after you talk about this. So go on.
Yep.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I always was just kind of like, I don't think it's actually happened. Either these people are like faking it on these videos, or something is mentally going on or whatever. And I was just like, no chance. I don't believe this. However, the story that I came across a couple weeks ago for this has me the closest to believing that this is probably possible because of just the amount of people that witnessed it that were credible to me. So anyway, I'm sure everybody that listens to us knows what an exorcism is, so I don't really think I need to go into it fully, but it's basically a religious or spiritual practice of casting out demons or other spiritual entities from a person or an area that is believed to be possessed. And there's so many different religions and cultures that believe in this. I had no idea. It's not even worth me listening because it's basically like everyone somewhere believes this in most religions. So this is the story of LaToya Ammons. I don't know if any of you have heard this story. It's supposed to be like very well known if you know anything about exorcisms.
The last name sounds familiar, but I don't know.
It happened in Gary, Indiana. And there was... Anyways, okay.
Gary. We've been to Gary before. It cracks me up.
Gary.
Gary's a weird
Let's just go to Gary. Let's go see
I don't
Gary.
even need to drive through it.
Let's go meet in Gary.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Let's do it.
No.
What's going on, Gary?
Not.
What you doing there, Gary?
Yeah. Let's find out what Cristy has to say.
Right. Is it a vortex? Is there some weird something going on and doors open or something?
Yeah, see,
I know crimes, ugly crimes have happened in Gary.
Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And this nonsense happened in Gary. So okay. I got pretty much all of my information from one newspaper article from the Indianapolis Star, but basically because they had the most information about this, because LaToya was very open with them when she spoke with them, and she also released a whole lot of information that nobody else would have access to, like DCF records and stuff like that she gave them permission to get. So they just had a lot of information. So I just used this one article. She also was interviewed, but she did not want her children interviewed or named in the article. So she was just like, those are my only parameters. Okay. So her and her mother, LaToya and Rosa, lived with LaToya's 3 children in Gary, Indiana. They started renting a home in November of 2011 on Carolina Street. Carolina. See how this always ties back into one of our states?
Welcome in.
Anyway. LaToya's 3 children were 7, 9, and 12 at the time of this story. And their story actually, they started renting in November, but it really started in December when Rosa recalls seeing black flies swarming around their screened porch. And that was weird for that to happen because it's the middle of winter, or at least the start of winter, and it's really cold. And so usually bugs and insects are starting to kind of disappear at that point. So they thought it was really weird that it was swarmed, covered with black flies. So they were like, these are annoying the crap out of us, but by itself, okay, weird, but not anything to think anything else was going to come out of this. But Rosa and LaToya also recall that they would be sitting in their living room and hear footsteps going down the basement steps, or kind of up and down the basement steps. And the door to the basement would creak as if it was opening. And so they would go check, but the door was closed and it wasn't open and it didn't look like it had been opened anyway. And nobody was on the stairs. So they would lock that door and it would still happen. So they'd still hear that creaking as if it was opening, even though they knew they
Nope.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And also black flies were happening at this time?
Yes, that was like the first thing that they noticed. And then they started realizing this basement thing happened. Yeah.
Yep. I'm out.
Rosa
that's enough for
also
me.
remembers waking up one night and seeing a shadowy figure in the living room. And when she walked out to the living room to check on it, she found wet boot prints on the floor, on the carpet. Whose are those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
They have no idea. No clue. But that's because nothing would be there. No one would be there. There wasn't anybody like running out or anything. She just saw this shadowy figure and then the wet boot prints on the floor. So, yeah. And okay, if I'm coming to tell, or someone's coming to tell me this, I'd still be a little skeptical about all this and be like, guys, whatever, something happened. Maybe you guys tracked that in. I'd still have probably a million excuses to give them that it's not a ghost or a demon. It's you guys. You guys are doing all this. So anyway, in March of 2012, a family member of theirs had passed away. So their house was just full of other family. They were celebrating their life and reminiscing about their loved one. And LaToya walks past Rosa's room and starts screaming. So Rosa comes comes into the room, and they see LaToya's 12-year-old daughter was unconscious and levitating above the bed.
Oh.
What? So after several minutes, she came down and wakes up and has no memory that it happened. She's like wondering why they're all standing there looking at her and wondering what the heck's happening. So LaToya started contacting local churches just to kind of like, hey, can you come in, check things out? I feel like we need an exorcism.
She automatically thought something spiritual was going on, obviously.
Yes, they were very Christian, so they believed that it was possible in general. So yes, she automatically went there. But the churches they didn't listen. They were like, no, probably nothing. We're not coming out. But one finally did after she kept hounding them. They came out to visit the home, and the priest that came out said he did feel that there were spirits living there and suggested that they clean the home with bleach and ammonia. He suggested they use an oil to draw crosses on every door, every window, and also to use oil on the hands and feet of her children and to draw crosses on their foreheads as well, to kind of draw all spirits that could possibly be there out. I don't know why this would happen.
Bleach and ammonia? You can't mix those two, right?
I didn't think so. Doesn't it like explode?
It's like a gas, I thought.
Yeah, it's like noxious.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what he suggested. I don't know if he meant at the same time or like, hey, bleach it, then use ammonia. I have no idea. But that's what his suggestion was. Beth, did you have
Windex and Clorox?
Right.
Yeah.
Windex them out.
What is that movie? Yes. My Big Fat Greek Wedding? Where he sprayed Windex
just Windex your elbow. It's going to be fine. Just Windex it.
I got a pimple on my face.
Demons.
Windex.
Yep. Demons. Windex it. Don't worry.
I had no idea it was so simple.
There you go, guys. And that is all.
Done.
I've given you the answer to all of your demon problems. Okay. So LaToya also contacts a few clairvoyants, and they confirm that the house is possessed by over 200 demons.
Oh, demons? Not just spirits?
Nope. They said demons. And that the only thing she could do was to move out. And let me tell you, girls and guys, that is exactly what I would be doing if someone told me my house is possessed with demons. Even if I didn't believe it, I'd be like, I'm out. I'm gone.
Right.
Yeah. Not 200 of them. Can't do it. Not today.
Wow.
One, 5,
maybe
I'd
tomorrow.
be fine. 200, nope.
Yeah, I'm good with one. Well, this wasn't an option for LaToya and Rosa because really, I mean, they didn't come from money. They had used everything that they had to like put down money for rent and deposit and everything. They just couldn't afford to pick up and go and find another place to live. But they did every now and then spend some nights in a hotel because they got particularly spooked and just were like, okay, we got to take a break and go to a hotel room. So LaToya ends up making an altar in her basement. She just has this table covered in a white cloth, white candle. She has statues of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus there. She'd burn sage and sulfur. She's right up your alley, guys. I don't know about the sulfur. Do you guys do sulfur too?
No,
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's a legit thing, but it's very stinky. If you can get by with sage,
stinkier than sage.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. She would move through the house, drawing crosses with the smoke with her sage and her sulfur in each room and repeating part of Psalm 91, which says, "You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday." She'd just be walking through saying this over and over again. This gave them 3 days of peace. And then things got much worse than they were.
Oh, no, she made him mad.
Demons started to possess LaToya and her 3 children. Their eyes would like bulge out and they'd have evil smiles and then have the deep voice like Brice does with his dandy little machine over there. Yeah.
So not the mom, not Rosa?
No, not Rosa, which it's funny that you said that because my next sentence is that Rosa witnessed all of this, but was never affected by it. And she says it's because she was born like protected. Like she has like angels or whatever watching over her. And so she just never was affected by this. I don't know why she was the only one that had these angels.
Maybe she has guides or something.
Oh yeah. Actually, that was a word that they used. She had guides or guardians. Maybe she said guardians. Anyways.
Okay.
So yeah, she only saw it all happen. The 7-year-old would start talking to a boy, like he'd hide in the closet and talk to this little boy that nobody else could see. And then one time he flew out of the bathroom as if he was like thrown by somebody, but he was not, nobody else was in there with him and like hit the wall and fell. And then the headboard fell and hit LaToya's daughter, like just fell on her randomly and she needed stitches in her head. And one of the children said that she always, or I guess it was a daughter, she always felt as if she was being held down and choked. And then when this was happening, she would hear a voice saying, "You'll never see your family again and you won't live another 20 minutes.
Oh. That's a very specific threat.
Yeah. I know, right? So it gets so bad that in April of 2012, LaToya decided that she needed to go to the family doctor and tell him what was happening. I don't know what he's going to do. Truly.
Yeah, the doctor. I don't know.
He's going to think she's crazy.
I think she was just at her wits. Well,
yeah,
exactly. But she was just at her wits end. I think she's like, dang, the church telling me just to spray ammonia and bleach and oil all over the windows, but
Windex and Clorox everywhere.
If we pass out from the fumes, we won't know we're possessed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she goes to her doctor. And as you said, Beth, he clearly thinks that all of what she's saying is crazy and that there's nothing actually going on. But then weird things happen in his office. And most of what I'm going to tell you now is basically from the Department of Children and Family Services, like actual reports. One of the sons started cursing and yelling at the doctor in a demonic voice. And then the littlest son was lifted and thrown like he was thrown out of the bathroom at home against the wall. And they're seeing this and they're like, nobody touched him. He just flew and hit the wall. He passed out and they couldn't get him to wake up, so they had to call 911 and get him taken to the hospital immediately. And when both boys wake up in the hospital, one was acting normally, but the other one was just thrashing around so severely that 5 people had to hold him down to kind of like sedate him.
And this is medical records saying this.
Yes. And DCS reports.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. And like the doctor and multiple like nurses in the office are saying like they're witnessing this. So this is when DCS was actually called in to investigate possible abuse. I don't know why they are jumping to that when they witnessed him flying against a wall without her touching him. But anyway, they feel like there has to be some sort of explanation. So they think LaToya is abusing them. They felt that she had a mental illness and that the kids were possibly acting this way to try and help cover for their mom.
Okay. Interesting.
It is, but it seems
weird logic.
Thank you. Like, seriously, your 7 or 9-year-old's going to like jump so high and fly through the air and slam his body against like
to knock themselves unconscious?
I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe not that far, but I have heard of that where, you know, children will take on the role of protector for their parents who can't protect themselves. And so they feel like they have to protect and
for sure
take care of their parent, but not like this.
Yeah,
I don't think like this.
Yeah, this seems like very extreme, and to get you to hurt yourself that badly, like,
yeah,
I don't know. Okay, so DCS interviews the hospital personnel. They said that they did not see any marks or bruises on the children at all, and they appeared to be healthy, like they were being taken care of. So she's not neglecting them. She's not physically abusing them or leaving marks, at least. So a psychiatrist evaluates LaToya and also finds her of sound mind. Like, she's not crazy. Everything's great. Like, nothing's happening. She really believes that these voices are happening and demonic possessions. So the DCS case manager assigned to this interviewed the kids while in the hospital. And the 7-year-old during this interview started growling at her, and his eyes started rolling back in the back of his head. And he started to choke his brother, who was also in the room. And the adults in the room had to physically like pry him off of him.
Wow.
Oh, and just wait. After this situation calmed down, the case manager and nurse decided to take the 2 boys into another room, like into a room to talk. Because at this point, they're just in the hospital room. So they're like, let's go into like, another room, sit down, let's have a talk. Rosa goes in with them. The 7-year-old starts growling again and says it's time to die while looking at his brother. So the 9-year-old started like headbutting Rosa out of nowhere. And so she grabs his hands and starts praying over him. Like, oh my gosh, like, please help us, whatever. While she's holding his hands, he starts walking backwards up the wall and proceeded to and all backwards, walking up the wall, and then flips over Rosa's head and lands on his feet, never letting go of her hands.
What?
Yeah, like, and I can't even explain it. Like, I don't know. Like, he walks backwards and flips over. But I don't know how he's holding. I don't know. Anyway, yeah.
Did you watch it?
No, it's not on video. Mm-mm. But the DCS workers are in the room. There's a nurse in the room. Rose is in the room. They're all seeing this happen. And the DCS worker and the nurse both run out because they're like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jackie Chan shit are they doing?
Well, I was just going to say, are they like circus performers? Is the family like into acrobats or something? Like, how would he know how to do that?
You sound like the lady from Poltergeist.
It's the diamonds in them.
Yeah. Well,
oh my God.
Again, funny you guys say all that, because when they go out and tell like everyone that this is happening, and the police were even told, they suggest to the case manager, they're like, well, maybe he's just doing a trick. You know how like kids can like run up, like they take a running start, they run up the wall and like flip backwards, you know? She's like, no, you don't understand. He was like moonwalking, like it was gliding. He wasn't like taking full steps. He didn't get a running start. Like, he just started backing up and like slid up the back of the wall. Anyway, so they go and tell the doctor what happened. Doctor goes in and asks the boy to do it again. Like, hey, do that trick you just did. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. At this point, he's normal. Demon's gone. He's like, I don't have any memory. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do this. No memory of it. Can't do it again. So the 7-year-old stayed at the hospital and LaToya stayed with him. And Rosa took the other two to another family member's house close by. Then it was the 7-year-old's 8th birthday the next day. So everyone comes back to the hospital to kind of celebrate and wish him happy birthday. And it's here where the case manager says, okay, I'm taking the kids from you, LaToya. This is an emergency separation. We're taking custody of the kids because we don't know what's happening, but they can't stay with you.
Oh.
Right? Like,
but why?
I know. I do too. Because they're all of people like that don't have an explanation of what's happening, even though they're witnessing it. They're like, the kids are not safe. They can't. And possibly even too, like, if you're going to go back to that house and you believe that's where it stemmed from, they shouldn't be there. But either way, it's really sad that they got separated. So the hospital chaplain calls a priest at a local church and asks for like a specific reverend to perform an exorcism on the 9-year-old. He agreed to speak with the family, this reverend, and see if it was necessary for this to happen. So he met with LaToya and Rosa at their home and spoke with them for a couple hours about all of the things that they experienced there. And while they were talking, there was a light that kept flickering while they spoke. And every time the reverend would walk towards it, it would stop. And so this
stop flickering?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it would just like stay on. Mm-hmm. This told him that there was a demonic spirit that was afraid of him in the house. So there were also several sets of blinds in the kitchen that would just kind of sway back and forth, even though there was no air blowing or motion or wind or whatever happening, and they would just kind of move. He also saw the wet footprints in the living room that Rosa had mentioned at one point. During this conversation, LaToya said that she started getting a headache, and the Reverend put a crucifix on her head, and she started convulsing at that point. And then he took it off, and she was fine. So, I mean,
okay,
just freaking weird stuff. So he's convinced that the house is possessed, and he prayed and sprinkled holy water in each room before he left. And he told LaToya and Rosa that they were not safe there and they needed to move out. So they went to stay with a family member. I mean, the kids were clearly in DCS custody, so they went and stayed with somebody else. So DCS needed to go and check the conditions of the house. So they have to go in, and they bring two police officers come with them, mainly out of curiosity, because they've heard the stories and they want to know what's happening.
Oh my God, I would totally be one of those police officers.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Oh, I so would go.
With my sage, yes, I would totally go.
Oh, yeah, I'd be armed to the nines with things, but...
Oh, yeah. The power of Christ compels me.
Yeah.
I feel like because I know all the rest of this, I'm like, no, I ain't going in that place.
Oh, yeah, you know too much. We would be the unsuspecting fools who would be like, yeah, we totally need to see what's going on here.
Yeah, totally want to do this. Totally want to do it. So they go in with Rosa and LaToya. The two officers, one police officer says he believed in ghosts, and in the supernatural, but not necessarily the demon part of it. Like, he didn't think that was possible.
Great.
But he did say his mind was changed after going into this house.
Oh.
Okay.
He had an audio recorder that stopped working, and it was like flashing like it needed new batteries. But he said he had just put new batteries in it right before they went over to the house. So he's like, well, that's weird. And then the other officer was able to record audio, but when he listened back, there was this whisper in it that just said, hey. Like,
oh. Nope. Mm-mm. Nope. See, I'm out.
She's like, yeah, I'd go.
You're out.
One little whisper, and she's like, Exactly. He just wants to say hi.
Hey, just say hi.
Hi, bye. I'm out.
In some of the pictures that they took during the visit, there was a cloudy image on the basement steps. And then when they enlarged it, it looked like it had a face on it.
Mm-hmm.
And other pictures taken with other people's phones also had weird silhouettes in a lot of the pictures. One of the officers' radios in their police car malfunctioned on the way home, and his garage door would not open, even though like there was power in their house and whatever, he could not get into his garage.
Oh, one of those 200 demons followed his ass home.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see,
that's what I was just thinking. It's in your car, electronics, my dude. Don't go in your house.
Mm-mm.
This is exactly what people started thinking. Like they were in there, but people could carry them out. Like
Mm-hmm.
stuff was happening at the hospital with the kids. So because they stepped foot in it, they left with one of these 200 demons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I can see it, like when they went to the doctor's office, it's attached to the family.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like that's already happening. But like if an officer went home.
Well, they're drawing
What town
energy
was this
too.
in?
So the
Gary.
Oh, Gary, Indiana. That's right. How far is it?
You know, I just had said we should plan a meeting there. I think I'm going to rethink that.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll reconvene.
No.
Rethink
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So one of the other officer's personal cars, the seat would start moving backward and forward while he was driving.
Right. It's the electronics. It's anything that they can get energy from.
Yeah. And
Yes.
when he took it in, the mechanic actually said, like, I can't remember what, I don't remember exactly what it said, but he was like, this doesn't happen. And you could have died because this is a distraction while you're driving. Like,
Yeah.
and this is not an issue that we know happens.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
anyway,
So
police
demons.
started to believe, it's a demon. The police nonetheless start to believe LaToya, even though mental health professionals were not so convinced.
Mhm.
Even though she passed the psychiatric evaluation already. Like, come on, why are you not convinced? So DCS still has temporary custody of the kids. And not long after they took them, they get temporary custody. Because at this point, it's just an emergency, like separation. But during this process, they get temporary custody of the kids. And they said that she's neglecting them because she was not sending them to school regularly. And that she had done this similar thing in 2009. So it wasn't just because of all of this, because she's saying, well, I don't send them because sometimes we don't get enough sleep because these demons are bothering us all night, or they've hurt them, or they're sick, or whatever. And so they're like, yeah, but you did this in 2009 too. And I don't have the details of that, like why she did it back then.
Mm.
But this is why they're saying they are getting temporary custody, because it's really the only thing they have to grasp onto. Like, I mean, I don't know what you would say in the court. Well, there's demons in her house, so we need temporary custody. I don't know if that would fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I don't know if you need to convince a judge or like, how would that?
You said the
story go?
police
Well,
believed them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
But still, I feel like if you still brought that into
enforcement.
Right.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. But I just still feel like if you bring that to a court, you're still going to be like, what? Like,
Yeah. No, a judge is going to look at you and say, can you not have nonsense in my court today? Like, this doesn't make sense. Please give me something substantial.
right. So I feel like that's why they grasped onto this. Oh, she's like neglecting them and not sending them to school. This was a reason.
Yeah.
And they have a history of doing that too now. So anyway, the children were evaluated while they were in DCS custody, and it was determined that they were logical, coherent, and did not exhibit any mental illnesses, and said it was a circumstance of their environment. So because mom was exposing them and saying these things were happening, they were believing it, and it was like manifesting in them. Still, I don't know. We'll sketch on that now.
Yeah. Invalidation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whatever they could do to make her concerns not valid.
Exactly.
For children. Yeah.
Exactly.
We
So
try
LaToya
very
was
hard
also
to rationalize things that we can't rationalize.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't explain away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she's also examined LaToya, and it was determined that she's not experiencing any symptoms of psychosis either. So DCS sets goals for the family for reunification. They say they're not allowed to talk about demons, and they need to participate in therapy to talk about their past behaviors. They felt that LaToya had a close bond with her children, but needed better discipline techniques, and that she was using these demons as her discipline techniques. And so she wasn't allowed to do that anymore.
Oh, shut up. Seriously?
For real. For real. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
Even though one of their own workers witnessed she wasn't doing anything to them.
Right.
Anyway, she also needed to find a new job and a new place to stay, which, I mean, the new place to stay for sure. Get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. It's such a privilege to tell somebody who may be living paycheck to paycheck. I don't know their situation. They could have had a little bit of money saved. Maybe they were saving to buy a house. I don't know. But that's a very privileged thing to say to somebody is just move.
Yep.
Just figure it out.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Like we all have unlimited incomes and can do that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, some people, they live in paycheck to paycheck, and it's like, well, I have to save for the next 6 months to get my security deposit to get a new place.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, police and DCS continue to look into the case. Police, LaToya, Rosa, and the Reverend, and the DCS case manager meet again at the house. Not the same DCS case manager, though, because she refuses to go back into that house. So,
as she should.
Yeah. A new one comes. And the Reverend suggests checking the basement and looking for pentagrams or personal objects that might be cursed and left in there. And what they find down there is that the ground, like it's all cement until the steps, and then underneath the steps is all dirt. And they don't really have an explanation as to why somebody would cement up to there and then stop. Or was it dug up? Who knows? So they sift through this and start digging through this dirt, and they end up, all they find is, which I don't know, maybe there is some significance to this, but there's a Lee press-on, well, I don't know if it was Lee, but there was a press-on nail. I just automatically say
Lee press-on nails, yeah. That's what they were.
Such a blast from the past. Holy crap.
Mm-hmm. To this day, that's what I call them, is Lee press-ons.
I didn't even write that. I just saw press-on, like Lee press-on nail.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they find this press-on nail. It's pink. They find a white pair of panties, which I hate that word. I'm sorry, but I use the word because they use it. A lid for a pan. Socks that are like cut off at the ankle or something. And a few candy wrappers. So to me, nothing of much significance, except that why is there a random dirt pile and there's a few items in there? Like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, he still blesses the basement. He puts salt around it and spreads it all throughout the basement. Why salt? I don't know. Do you guys know why salt?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It purifies, and it also wards off like negative things,
neutralizes
negative entities. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. So the other DCS case manager that comes into the house, she's sitting upstairs just checking things out. And all of a sudden her pinky finger starts to feel really weird and feels like it's broken right now. It hurts so bad, but for no reason, because she had just been standing there. And then all of a sudden, like, it was like white, like your fingers can, what that's feeling. Did your fingers ever turn white like that when you hurt them really bad? No? Kind of lose feeling and
when they're cold.
Okay.
Kind of, well, like when you, when they've been like compressed for too long, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how her finger's feeling. And she's just been like standing there walking around, but she also feels it hurts so bad. It feels like it's broken. So she starts to have a panic attack and has to like walk out of the house. When the Reverend starts talking to LaToya about things that are happening, she gets a headache and also has to leave. So some of the police officers also at this point start noticing oil dripping from one of the blinds in one of the rooms. And they're like, what the hell is that? Well, probably the oil that they were told to put on windows and stuff earlier. So, but they're like, let's clean this off and then seal the room up for a little bit and make sure nobody goes in and then come back in and see. I don't know why they thought of this. So they do that. They like put like a Q-tip in the door so that they'll know if anybody opened it to go in, because they just want to make sure nobody was going in there. They go back in 25 minutes later after they had cleaned it all off and made sure it was gone. And there's oil dripping from the blinds again. And they're like, where the hell did that come from? Because
that's Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the Reverend is convinced that there's a demonic presence, and he submits a report to the bishop, because you have to, I don't know if you know this, but you have to have permission from the bishop to actually perform a real, like, big time exorcism.
Yes. I did know that.
Yes.
Okay. You can perform small ones, but you can't perform like a major one. So the bishop does not, or they believe, as far as they know, has never authorized an exorcism in the 21 years that he had been bishop. And this one was no different. He told the Reverend to go speak to other priests who had performed them and to do minor rituals around the house, but he didn't feel like it had to be a major exorcism. So that's what the Reverend does. He does intense blessings on the house, minor exorcism on LaToya, and the police and DCS attend this exorcism. Minor exorcism. The case manager left. This is now the replacement case manager. She left feeling like something was really going on, and she had chills like the whole time and really believed that what they were doing was real and something was happening and whatever. And this, she also, when she left there afterward, had so many medical issues that weren't couldn't be explained, like why she, like, not explained, but so many things happened to her after that was like, she was in a motorcycle accident, then she got cancer, then she and it was just like all right after she attended this exorcism. So
that's horrible.
She also says she lost some of her friends because they believe she was carrying demons around in her. I pretty much. That's like, I'm out. Not your friend anymore. Anyway. I'm sorry. This is so all over the place, but I'm sorry. Okay. The Reverend then advised LaToya to look up demon names, because it's also believed that if you know the name of the demon, that you can fight it better. Did you know that too?
Yes.
You have power over the demon.
Yes, that is a big thing in religion, is like you have to name it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that makes sense. So she starts researching demons, and she's researching them and like kind of going through and being like, okay, this is what's happening to us, so maybe that's the name. Oh, this happens to us, and maybe that's the name. But so she kind of goes through like a different few lists of names, and I think they do minor exorcism using different names every now and then, and they just kind of see how it reacts. Mm-hmm. So they finally also figure out one that reacts really heavily to it. So they think they figure out the name. But in the meantime, he gets the bishop's approval for a full, like, major exorcism. But he ends up performing 3 of them on her. 2 in English and 1 in full-blown Latin.
They pulled out the Latin.
Wow.
They did. And the final one was done in June of 2012. And it was said that LaToya was convulsing during the entire thing when he was condemning the demon. No, I'm sorry. She was, convulsing each time he was condemning the demon, but when he prayed, the demon was calm. So the demon didn't care about like praying for help or whatever, but when he was condemning him for what he was doing, he was pissed.
Hmm.
So during this time, LaToya and Rosa had moved to Indianapolis, and they would drive back and forth for court dates and exorcisms. Like that was their ritual. Like, oh, we got an exorcism. We got to go.
Right.
Court date.
What are your plans this weekend? Oh, I got to go back for an exorcism. We got an exorcism at 4.
Right.
And then
got
we're going
to
go
dinner
get
on Sunday
at 7.
Got it. Waffle House after the exorcism, anyone?
Yeah.
You got to keep your strength.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So LaToya never went back to that house after that, and she hasn't had any issues since the last exorcism. And the landlord says that there had never been issues before LaToya or after. And so he thought it was just a made up story so that she wouldn't have to like pay rent and whatever. But then he became a little bit less skeptical when the church got involved because he was a Christian. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm sorry. I haven't even gotten to like, well, I mean, I've gotten to most of it, but she gets custody back of her kids, by the way.
Oh, good.
Okay.
November 2012.
Good.
DCS checks in on them, makes sure that they're attending school regularly, and they finally go off their list in February of 2013. So everything's all good and dandy with them. Okay. I was super skeptical of this entire thing until all of those people were in the like mix and they were witnessing it, whatever. Do you guys know who Zach Baggins is?
Oh God. Please don't. No.
I don't know who it is.
Oh, well, he does like, I don't watch it, but he does a show, Ghost Adventures.
I hate
like
him.
Is it
not
like
Jessica?
Oh, you
he's
do?
Not Jessica's favorite.
Oh.
We call him the douchebag. The douchebag on roids. Because I don't know, the early like 2000, I don't know, like 5-ish. Like Ghost Hunters became popular, and there was other shows and his is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so the girls and I would watch, and it's entertainment. While I take some of that seriously, do I think that they're taking it seriously? No. This guy though, the whole show is like him coming in strong, like him and his bravado and him and his, I don't know. It's just, I'm going to take this on, and these ghosts and spirits are going to recognize me as a form of authority. And he's just a douche. He's a douchebag. I can't stand watching him. And he may have tried, I mean, his perspective of things may be coming from a place of trying to help and trying to do good things, but it didn't, to me, it didn't come across that way. So his show is highly annoying. And he in general, I can't stand. So to hear his name even associated with this makes me just want to.
I feel like you may have mentioned that maybe on one of your shows or something.
Oh, I have mentioned it a couple of times. Yeah.
Because I didn't really know him until I saw that name, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that just is not like this person, but I couldn't be sure. Yeah. So he has this show. Anyway, he buys this house for $35,000, and he wanted to live in it and do a documentary on it. And he did. And it's called Demon House. And I watched it.
That's why I know this. That's exactly why.
Okay. So you've seen this?
I haven't seen it because I, at some point, refused to watch anything with his name in it.
Which I understand.
That's why I know this name now. Yeah.
Because he does come across douchey, like, and I mean, I'm not so sure about him, but like, he had like some lady, I watched the whole thing. He had some lady come in that used to live in there, and it was another family, and she had a brother who lived in a room in the basement who died suddenly. And then they had found out that some other kid died in that room before that. And not long after like her and her family left this house, her daughter tried to commit suicide out of nowhere, like attacked her mom and tried to kill herself. And like all this weird stuff happened to this family after they stepped foot back in this house. And then weird things happened to his crew after they stepped foot in this house. Like one guy came in and he was like in the hospital, like organs were failing after he went in this house, and I was in the hospital for like months trying to figure out what was going on. Zach himself got some sort of eye thing that is permanent, and they can't fix it because if they do, he could go blind if they try and do surgery. One of his camera guys, like, and they have cameras all around the house, was caught like just acting really weird and would just travel around and walk around the house. And then they found him like laying in the room where the two people had died in, or not that they died in the room, but the 2 people who died that lived in that room in the basement. And then when he went back to the hotel, he started acting crazy and they had to basically let him go because he was going nuts. It's so weird. So weird. All of the things that started happening to people, and the police that were in this case were in that documentary, and they were talking about digging up the dirt and the stuff that happened to them after. So I watched it. Most of it, I was kind of like, oh, whatever. But it was seeing those real people that I had read about telling what they had experienced. And I was like, oh my God, this house is really creepy. They ended up tearing it down, but there was some police officers that just wanted to leave it because they thought that if they tore it down, they would open some sort of portal.
Yeah. Or release all of it.
I would think that too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Totally
release
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they got to go somewhere.
Yeah,
It's energy. It has to go somewhere.
Right.
Well, they did. They tore it down. So it's gone.
Ooh.
Not in Gary anymore. Anyway.
Or it is all over Gary.
They're not building anything on there, right?
I don't think so. I don't think they built anything. I'm pretty sure they just tore it down and well, I don't know. I don't remember what year it was.
Just makes me wonder what might have happened there.
Right.
Previously.
Nobody really knows. Nobody's saying anything except for the random kid that they knew who had died. And then the lady who came back and said her son was killed after living in that one room. Those are the 2 things that all of a sudden came out during the Zach Baggins thing.
Yeah.
And LaToya won't talk about it, really. Well, I think she's working on the story with somebody else, maybe with Netflix or I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. But she wouldn't talk to Zach about it. And I think her cousin or something went out and talked to him, but then they wouldn't let him back in the house. LaToya and Rosa would not let them back in her house because he had gone to the house again. And they were like, you are not bringing anything back into this house because you went to the other one.
I know that's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I don't know. It's just really weird. This one story, I might believe in stuff like that now just because of all of the people that witnessed all the crap that happened to that family.
Yeah, people who would be, you would think that police officers, anybody who's, with the Department of Children's Services, all of those people are going to be naturally skeptical, and they're going to be looking for a reason that is not anything to do with demons or supernatural or anything. They're going to be looking for abuse. They're going to be looking for drug use. They're going to be looking for mental health issues. And when they can't find that, that kind of makes you think.
And you're also talking about more than 10 people. This is over a dozen people now that are oh shoot, there's something here. There's something that we can't explain. Once you get over 4 or 5 people that are not in the same situation and are experiencing it in different, buildings and with different people, it's something's going on. The house is haunted. Your house is haunted. It's demons.
Yes. Yes. Nobody can see your face. Your face is just so, it says it all.
It does.
I don't even want to go to bed. I'm so creeped out by this whole entire story.
You still got
more
more
left. I don't ever want to say Gary.
Sorry it took so long, guys.
It was a crazy story.
Yeah, let's not go there. Let's find someplace happy and me.
Yeah. Nashville. Remember Nashville?
Nashville. That's right. We're going to go to Nashville. Yes. Never been.
Wait, do you have something happy, Jess?
Yeah. No, not really. No, it's not happy.
Somehow I didn't feel like you did.
No, but nobody's possessed necessarily. So, no, it's not. I wouldn't say happy.
What you got for us?
So, I have the origin story.
Ooh, okay.
For Halloween.
Oh, fun.
as best as we know it. Yeah, and how it's evolved throughout the years.
Okay.
So we've kind of hit on some things already, but does anybody really know how Halloween got its start? Do any of you guys know?
Mm-mm.
So I know like All Hallows Eve is like the Dies de, like the Day of the Dead, and where we recognize spirits that have gone forward before us, right? It's like it's supposed to have been like a celebration of life kind of situation, or the celebration of the dead and spirits past and their memories, right? Not in our country.
Right. No, that's not our country at all. So a lot of cultures around the world seem to have like a time during the year when ancestors or the dead are honored. So, I mean, we kind of mentioned that, like a lot of...
I was just going to say, if you want to know more about that, please go back and listen to What Happens in the Woods Fridays episode on Brice's explanation about what happens in the Philippines and his culture. And it's beautiful and amazing and nothing like what we do. So go back and listen to that.
No. Yeah. And it kind of ties in because of Catholicism. So a lot of Latin speaking, Latin, cultures, countries that were Catholic, they have a lot of that All Saints Day traditions, but even other Asian, Eastern cultures, they also have a certain time of year and a certain thing where they will honor the dead and ancestors. And, they have altars that they will set up, and they have different things. So it's not just a Catholic thing. It's not just a religious thing necessarily. It is a cultural thing. What it's become in America is a little bit different. But so Halloween, of course, we said, has its roots in All Saints Day and All Souls Day, which are the Catholic holidays. But it wasn't always celebrated in the fall. Oh. So All Saints Day was originally celebrated in the springtime, actually around the time when we would celebrate Easter.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. So that was kind of early Christianity. As Catholicism was spreading, one of the first popes recognized that they could easily convert pagans, which, of course, I mean, that was the problem of the time. How do we get into places where people are, quote unquote, uneducated, and, most people at this time could not read or write in any way. So how could they make things easier to convert them to Christianity and Catholicism? And that was to integrate holidays and integrate celebrations and traditions. So they realized that if they came into these villages and areas where pagans were, primarily, that was what they practiced, was, it was many god. Paganism is the belief of many different deities, basically.
I was hoping you would say what paganism was. I feel like people might not know that.
I may not know. Yeah. So you may recognize different deities, or you might recognize that, there's not necessarily, maybe there's one larger deity, like as we would consider God, and then there's Jesus Christ in Christianity, and then the Holy Spirit, if you believe in the Trinity. But they're, like early Romans, they had many gods. The Greeks and the Romans, they had many gods. That there was a god for everything, a god or a goddess for everything under the sun. Catholics have saints, and there's many different saints that oversee, safe travels, or like St. Francis of Assisi, he's the saint for animals. St. Michael, there's many different saints that will oversee certain things that you would pray to or give thanks to for different things. So pagans, it was very similar. And what Christianity decided would be the easiest thing to do was, you practice, this certain type of tradition, this certain ritual. oh, well, we do that too. We call it this. So it must be the same. So you're not learning something different. You're learning something that's the same as what you're already doing. It's just called something different. And it was a way of them being able to convert, like I said, quote unquote, uneducated masses. So the holiday then was moved from the springtime, when the Romans were in like the Celtic area, like England, Ireland, Northern Europe. It was moved from springtime to the end of fall. So it was considered something that you were celebrating the end of the light time of the year and going into the dark time of the year. And that's when kind of the mysticism kind of started to happen with it. Yeah. So All Saints Day was moved to the fall when the Celtic pagans celebrated Samhain, which that word, God bless them. That's not how that is. In my little American brain is like Samhain. It's not. It's Samhain is how it's pronounced.
Oh.
But it's spelled Samhain. So I had to write Samhain throughout this whole thing so that I would be able to say it right.
I know. I'm going to say an M if I see an M.
Yeah, exactly.
Not usually silent.
No. And it's a beautiful language. But I would be lost. Americans have such a weird brand of English to deal with. It ruins us for other languages, I think. So the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain was a celebration of the end of summer, and it literally means summer fun, is what I read. And it was considered their new year. They're ending the light time of year and they're going into the dark time of year. So you would light a lot of bonfires. You would, you would be harvesting things. You always wanted to make sure that the harvest was done for whatever crops, whatever you were doing, so that during the dark time, you did not have to work, and that you were entering a time when you wouldn't have as much light to grow your crops or to harvest anything. You wouldn't have as much time during the day to be out. So it was just kind of a natural progression.
Also known as daylight savings.
Yes. Right. So this is also the time of the year that the Celtics thought that the veil between the earth and the spiritual world were at its thinnest. So spirits would roam the earth on this day, on All Hallows Eve. And to honor these spirits, Celtics would build like huge bonfires, and they would, burn portions of their crops as like a Thanksgiving, as a way of honoring, so that these spirits wouldn't come and mess with them, essentially. And it was just kind of a way of, here's your portion. Please leave us alone. Kindly. Thank you. Let us have a good rest of our year, and please, think kindly upon our houses.
Don't possess our houses and the people living in it.
Right. Exactly.
I love that.
So they would also, what's that?
I just love that. I think that's such a nice idea to have a day for that. Like, we don't do that in this country where we're like, hey, for the spirits past, thank you. Can you please visit us and give us blessing and teach us wisdom of your life and, and watch over us. We don't do it. It's ridiculous, kind of.
No, it's really a shame that we don't do that, because I think that it would put a lot of the fear of death away from our minds. If you're welcoming somebody that right. If you're welcoming somebody that you have fond memories of, that you loved, to, at this one day is a time for remembering them and thinking fondly of them. We've turned it into this, well, if they're here, there must be something wrong. They shouldn't be here. They shouldn't, we shouldn't be thinking of them. We shouldn't, there must be something wrong. They must, and then there's different, things like Catholics have purgatory, and there's different reasons for them not being at final peace. And that could be all, just stuff in our heads that's making us scared of death.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a sad thing. It's kind of sad for us.
Didn't you just listen to Cristy's story? No.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those are demons. Thank you very much. That's not the same.
Demons are different than like the spirit of our like parents and grandparents. Like they're not going to come back and demonically possess your children and make them walk up walls. Like they're going to bless us and give us their wisdom and their light and love. Like it's different. Brice.
It's very different. Oh. Come on now. As a Filipino, I would think that you would know that. I don't know where you're coming from right now. So
your story was really
the
scary,
Druid,
though, Cristy.
or Celtic priest. Yes, your story was very scary. So the Druids that were in charge of these festivities were basically considered like Celtic priests. They were people that, were leaders in the society, right? They had a certain power. They had certain, they were part of a hierarchy of society, and they were usually somewhat educated, and, people would go to them with concerns or to ask questions or to get help. And it would kind of was a little bit of a threat when Christianity came through. Obviously a Catholic priest and a Druid priest, they really, while they're similar, like a parallel type of position in, each religion, they're not the same necessarily. So there's some threat there, right? But Druids believed that they could communicate with the dead, especially on Samhain. And they would perform divination, and they would do fortune telling, regarding like the upcoming year. They would have these ceremonies where they would do these bonfires and they would burn the crops. And then people would take, torches back to their home and light their fire in their hearth with it so that it would give them like a blessing, basically. So they're starting their new year with these blessings from the bonfire that the Druid priests had started. And after doing that, it was supposed to protect them from evil spirits. So of course there are harmful spirits, the demons, that could come and create, wreak havoc on everybody as well. So this was known as All Hallows Eve, which then later, as we know, became Halloween. And then the Catholics added the All Saints Day on November 1st, and then the All Souls Day on November 2nd. And All Saints Day incorporated a lot of traditions from Samhain, such as one of the things that they would do is carve turnips. And I was talking to Brice, I was like, I thought turnips were tiny. I thought they were like small little, like baseball sized things.
That's what I thought too.
Right. They would carve little faces in these.
And just like stick them on their mantle or something?
And they would put them on the fences. They would like put them near fire and then put them on their fences, like outside of their home or along roads. And it would confuse the evil spirits to go other places. So it would be warding off evil spirits. But I'm like, turnips, who's sitting there carving turnips? Like I really thought that they were just tiny. I had no idea that they were big enough to do that, to carve a thing in it.
Is that why our present day pumpkin carving knives are like ridiculously small, even though you got a giant pumpkin?
Right. Yes.
It's the dang
that's
truth.
Exactly. Yes.
Sorry.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm claiming that right now.
We're going with that.
I'm going with that. It was also common for the less fortunate to go around dressed as spirits in order to help, get food for the upcoming months. So they would go around and offer to pray for ancestors in exchange for either money or food. So if they were not able to do maybe a large harvest, or they didn't have the ability to harvest, that was another way that they could have enough food for the upcoming months and keep their family healthy, at least fed a little bit.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So the wealthier families would expect, to give out some food or money to these families that would come along, and they would basically trick or treat. Mm-hmm. So if you didn't give them something, then you might get a trick of some sort.
Oh, do you have an example of a trick?
So they would leave, like they would let out livestock. They would, really not trick things, but like really detrimental things. Mm-hmm. It kind of evolves into, how bad can I be and get away with it, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So there might be fires started. There might be, if they didn't get any food, they might go ruin some of the food that was being stored. I heard even some kidnappings happening.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So there was a lot of examples of just not a little trick. Like, they're not gonna, we're not substituting salt for sugar. And it's really, somebody can get hurt.
TP people's houses before.
Oh God, yeah.
Or just, they're not going to just boo you.
Yeah, no, they're not booing you. You will not get booed.
TP in your house is a real mess though. Like when you get TP'd as a teenager and you have to go out and clean it up, it takes like an entire day. Like it's awful.
No, it's the whole day. And you're shamed out there.
It's true.
I just said recently, because a couple houses in my neighborhood did it, I was like, I'm kind of glad, sounds bad, that my kid isn't like really, really popular, because we're not getting TP'd. And of course, the moms I said it to, they're like, we're going to TP your kid's house. We're going to make them feel good. And I was like, oh gosh.
Please don't. Please don't do that.
Literally. Don't wish that one.
Sorry, veered off back here. But
so one of the things that I came across was also how we kind of have turned into this mysticism, right? That sounds not so bad. All of that, like the Celtic celebration, it doesn't sound, there's no, they said evil spirits, but it's not like, there's zombie killers or, how we have like the horror and things. Mm. So one of the things that I was kind of questioning is, well, how did witches get tied to Halloween? So heavily tied to Halloween. And I was watching a history, like the History Channel had a documentary, and they were talking about how traditionally women were storytellers, and they were the keepers of tradition and history in the family, right?
Talking about there's 3 storytellers right here.
Right. And we may be witches.
I was just kidding.
I'm not going to speak for anybody else. Witches. Scorpio witches. 2 or 3 and Cristy's an auntie. So I don't know what your problem is. So they, traditionally they kept the stories for the family, and it was passed down by generations by people telling these stories. They didn't write things down because they were not able to read and write. So somebody had to keep the knowledge. Wise women were the traditional people that were revered for having this knowledge, and they were healers. They learned to, use what was in the community, use resources in the land. And it was also passed down. These were the traditions that happened until the church came in and was like, we can't have pagan traditions being told. We need to stop that so that we can come in and spread Christianity. So what do? They persecute women. Now you're a witch. You know,
because you told stories of the past.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that whole just error of persecution of women came about because of their knowledge and how much they knew and what they were sharing. And it went against what the church was trying to spread. Mm. So that's how it's tied into Halloween necessarily, not so much, but that's kind of how it gets turned into what we now celebrate as Halloween, for a couple of reasons that I'll share in a little bit. Also, I learned that because of, I never got the correspondence between like black cats and witches. Mm. And apparently what was thought was because cats like to, you know, they would be by the hearth because you would catch the rodents that were trying to keep warm. And so they would stay by the hearth to try to catch rodents and, you know, feed themselves. They somehow correlated that with cooking and then back to women. So, of course, women were turning themselves into black cats and staying by the hearth. And it was so that they could hide when the church was coming to find them. Oh. So it was one of these like little stories that was being told. It's so far-fetched. But I don't know how they got to that point. I just don't understand the point A to point B of the story, but apparently that's how black cats are tied into witches as well.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Totally understand now.
I know, right? I was like, okay, if you say so. One of the things that caught me kind of off guard is, and I had heard about it, but I just didn't really think about it. When people were coming over to the colonies, you know, America was found, a lot of the Protestants did not celebrate any of these types of holidays because they were strictly thought to be a Catholic thing. So they did not celebrate any of this. However, when the Irish immigrants started coming, these traditions started coming back. So there would be, you know, before they were states in the colonies, there were certain colonies that were more Catholic and they would celebrate these days. And that's how we ended up with, instead of turnips, it was gourds. It was pumpkins that they would carve. And there was more of a presence of celebrating the All Hallows Eve and having more of a community type celebration than, you know, it's not necessarily not trick or treating, but it's still more back like the Celtics had with the Druids and the bonfires and things like that. They would do that at the end of a harvest. Mm-hmm. And they would celebrate All Hallows Eve. But the Protestants would have none of it. Absolutely none of it. They would not even entertain it whatsoever. And that also played into why witches became persecuted in this country as well, and why it carried over so well. And then during the Civil War, there was this huge surge in mysticism. And it was literally because there was so much death that everybody was processing grieving and death, and they just didn't know how to do it on the level of what was happening. I mean, the amount of men, women, and children, but men who died in the Civil War is just astounding. And there's, you know, whole areas where hundreds of thousands of people have died in this country, and their families could not figure out how to grieve for so many people that they lost. Mm-hmm. And so people were turning to, you know, mystics. They were turning to fortune tellers. They were turning to anything that they could try to find to communicate with their loved ones on the other side and be able to grieve. They were just trying to process grief. And that is kind of what actually turned it into the more spooky and ghostly traditions that we have now. Because it went from honoring our dead ones and honoring our ancestors to there's so many dead people, there's so many spirits that they're all trying to contact us, and there's so much chaos that they can't get through, and we have to funnel that somehow. And that's why, like, the fortune tellers and the mystics, they would have full-on seances, and it was just an afternoon thing to do. Would be, oh, we're going to go over to so-and-so's house today for a seance. And they were so common that they were happening daily. Towns would advertise seances to try to reach your loved ones.
Come for tea and speak to Uncle John.
Yeah, literally. It would be a party with a seance. And that's kind of how they got into the creepier aspect of things, I would say. And how it kind of turned into what it is for us now, where it's more of a scary thing. It's not a celebratory thing. There's so much dark and just, really creepy things that they would say they would get in contact with. And it turned very ugly. So alongside of that was the tradition that came back of the tricks. And they didn't get any better. So in the turn of the century, like the 19th century, these kids were going out and running the streets. And they were, streetcars were being derailed. People were being killed. Fires in buildings were happening.
My gosh.
It was just a night. It was like the purge, basically. It was the night to see what can I get away with. And nobody's ever going to know because I'm out here, dressed differently. And you'd have like little girls dressed like young men. And, they were all just out there just doing their thing.
Sounds like a riot as opposed to like tricking people.
So communities were like, how do we stop this? How do we reverse this and get this turned back around? And that's when the marketing started. So World War I, of course, the Great Depression happened. There was a lot of rioting during that time because people didn't have anything. So they were kind of, let's just go loose. Let's go for broke. What kind of damage can I do? And they would go and break. There were no supplies to be had for things. They would go and burn flour. They would break glass, which was a commodity. They would break lights. If there were towns that had any kind of street lights or gas lights, they'd go break them and bust them. And they didn't have anything to replace these with. So all of these communities, kind of slowly started saying, how can we divert? Where can we put the attention so that these kids aren't out here wreaking havoc and rioting? And that's how the Halloween parties began. Communities would partner with schools, and they would start these parties at school for Halloween. And that in turn led to, it used to be you made your own costume in the 20s, 30s, 40s. There wasn't any place you can go buy them. This is how that marketing came about. Oh, well, the schools are having parties. What can we brand? What can we make? What toys can we do? What can we advertise out there that schools will want to help us advertise? And these kids are going to go home and beg their parents to go and buy them something. So there was a company that started making paper costumes. And they were paper. They were specifically like geared towards these school events. And it would be, normal little things. It would be dressing up like a little girl dressing up like a boy, or, kids they'd have like a funny little mop wig that they would put on, and, their dad's bowler hat, and it would be stuff like that. But then these paper costumes came out. That was your favorite comic book. It was your favorite penny book. It was characters like Cheshire Cat, things like that, where they couldn't necessarily make those things, but you could go and buy it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had to get away from the paper because kids started lighting and like getting lit on fire. And that was
what I was wondering about.
Not a good idea.
Well, my costumes because totally they were still would doing light us on fire.
Oh God.
Yeah.
It would be
like that in like the 80s.
Yes. It would have been like that. Our old costumes, like the plastic masks and stuff. Oh yeah, would have lit up in flames.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
And
oh
they
my
were
gosh.
scary as
Thank
hell.
goodness. Yes, they were.
I
wish I had
saw
some
a meme
still.
about those. I know, I do too, but I just saw a meme today about those, about like there's a classroom full of them and they're like, look, that's a classroom full of serial killers.
Yes. No, seriously. Those costumes were,
yeah.
I don't know how any of us survived the 80s. Like the 60s,
Same.
70s, 80s. Because that's when
I totally wish I still had
with, like,
them.
The plastic ones. Oh, I know.
My kids do
I
like
had
a
Cinderella
haunted trail
one.
now. Yeah, it's so spooky.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids do a haunted trail and they come up with all these like spooky masks and spooky characters. And I'm like, you guys have no idea. Like, you think Michael Myers is scary? No. Wait until you saw him a Snow White mask. That was scary.
Right.
Like,
Right.
It's so creepy.
The ones that were supposed to be happy and cheerful were nightmare inducing.
Mm-hmm.
They were horrible.
They were.
Yep.
Yeah. So then after, the schools got involved, people started having parties at their homes. And that's how we transitioned into the candy aspect of things. So at first it was, let's invite the neighborhood. Let's see who can throw the best party, because it was all about, what kind of, who can outdo each other, right?
Status, yeah.
Yeah. And they would have bobbing for apples. They would have, the highly catered events with food, and people would take this food home. So then it became, how do we make that easier? And how do we market that to sell in a store? Candy. Candy's easy to market, right? Who doesn't want a sugar fest? And if you put your favorite character on that candy, or your favorite actor is selling that candy, it's even going to sell even more. But on the flip side of that, we've got all these people in these little communities having parties, or they have towns having parades. Nobody's tricking. Nobody's going out and wreaking havoc. Nobody is out there causing hundreds of thousands of dollars of damage to property. And that's kind of how we got to where we are today. So the pumpkin carving is based off the turnip. Lighting that up is part of the bonfire that the Celts would do. The offerings of, going door to door has its roots in paganism, with, going and asking for food to help you get through the winter. But also in the respect of, if you do this for me, I will pray for your family and your ancestors, and I will remember them. It came into the trick or treat aspect of things. And with the mysticism then added to it, we lead into the horror, that started in the 60s and 70s, where it was the big, I have to go and be scared. And that's fun. And it's led away so much from what this actually started as, which was a way to honor ancestors that we're so far removed at this point in this country. Other countries, not as much, but you hear more and more that they are becoming Americanized for Halloween.
Yeah, because I definitely
not the same.
Will not be sustained. Well, I mean, maybe I could be sustained on peanut butter cups for the winter. But
it's a possibility. I mean, it's protein, at least.
It's true.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
That would probably be my pick. Yeah. It's peanut butter cups.
For sure, mine.
Yeah. So yeah, that is the origin story of Halloween. And one thing that I thought was just hilarious, ironic, I guess you would say ironic. Most Christian religions, even Catholicism to a point, just completely abhor Halloween, especially the stricter Christian religions. Mm-hmm. It is satanic. It's, a time of year to devil worship, or it's not, it doesn't represent what they would like for their followers or their believers to go out and participate in. Mm-hmm. But it literally was a way for the Catholics to come in and convert people to Catholicism, was taking over this holiday. It's a very ironic stance to have, where you're denouncing it, but it was a means to an end centuries ago for you to come over and conquer. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know why they wouldn't take the time to try and teach this part of it, to help convert some people or whatever, or just give some knowledge. Hey, guess what? It started with us.
Right. It totally did. Mm-hmm. It totally did. So it's very interesting. And the History Channel documentary that I watched it's just on YouTube. If you don't have the History Channel app, it had so much information to it that I had never even heard of. During the Civil War, even, Halloween was a big deal. They celebrated it kind of how they did in the, or not the Civil War, the American Revolution, sorry. It was kind of how they started, in the Civil War, they got huge on the mysticism. The Revolutionary War was kind of the same way, where there was kind of this upsurge of people trying to contact their loved ones who are dead. And they were just so desperate in their grief to find any comfort. And it kind of did this upsurge of celebrating All Saints Day, even if you were a Protestant. Yeah. So it just is, it's evolved quite a bit.
Yeah, it really has. That's really, really interesting, because not that I ever thought I knew where the origins of Halloween were, but I grew up Catholic, so I was just oh yeah, All Hallows Eve and whatever, All Saints Day. Well, I had these terms that I knew, but I didn't really understand. I no clue that it came from a turnip. We carve pumpkins from carving turnips.
No idea. Yeah. And I don't think I've ever eaten a turnip, because I was talking to Brice, and I was like, my palate has expanded since he and I have been married, over the last, 20 years, how long have we been married? 23 years. And I have eaten, in the last few years, I've expanded my palate a lot. And I still don't think I've ever eaten a turnip. And in my head, they're the size of a golf ball or something. I don't know if that's right.
No.
I'm literally Googling a turnip right now, because they look like beets or radishes.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. So what are they? What size are they?
I don't know if you can see this.
Softball size, but it depends.
Can you see that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was picturing in my head, was a little turnip, a little radish.
Yeah.
How
do you carve that?
I don't know how you carve it. I really don't. But, I guess if you don't have anything else to do, hobbies, there weren't a whole lot of distractions back in the day.
I'm going to buy some tomorrow. I'm going to etch a little something in it.
With a little toothpick or something.
Yeah. No, with actual stupid knives that come with pumpkin carving.
You know what I did this year? I bought one of the electric ones.
Oh.
Amazing. Best $10 I've spent.
Like a turkey carver?
Yeah, shorter. The blade was maybe 6 inches. It wasn't as long as the turkey carver, but yeah. $10. Battery operated.
I have to look into
and
that.
it cut through. I had a pretty decent size pumpkin, and it did the job. I don't think it was quicker though.
Yeah, I know. It just takes so long.
Yeah.
We didn't even carve a pumpkin this year, to be honest, but I carved a hole into one and made a pumpkin that I put a bag of wine in, and then the spout came out the hole. So it's my wine dispenser right now.
I mean,
oh my gosh, I don't think you posted that, Cristy. It was literally you have to post it now.
I put hollow wine on the outside of it.
I love it.
That's the only pumpkin that's carved in my house.
I feel like that's very Catholic.
Yeah, probably. I'll own it.
I feel like that is very Catholic.
She is not Catholic.
A hollowed vessel for your wine.
Oh my God.
Okay, I have to tell you guys a secret because you've been cracking me up talking about these turnips. So when we did our first Halloween collab, and I can't remember if I researched and read this and talked about it, or if I just researched and read it, but I definitely remember that turnips were the first pumpkins. And I feel like I said that in our first Halloween collab.
You weren't listening to
me. Oh my gosh.
But I can't remember for sure if I said it to y'all or
Bryce
if I just
is
read it. Do you remember it, Brice?
Bryce is
that I was it started
me.
Out with turnips.
Why didn't you tell me that?
And we
had a
were
whole
all
conversation
like,
the other
why?
day about
how can you carve a turnip? I feel like that happened, but maybe I'm crazy and it was a long time ago. I don't know. But I definitely
we're recycling past episode right now. Replay.
Just wanted to call you guys out on that. I can't remember if we talked about it, honestly. I truly don't remember.
If I
just read it or
you
we
literally
talked about
didn't say anything to me. No, I bet you did, and I have a horrible memory. Well, I swear I could have Alzheimer's at this point.
Number one, you stop it with the I suck part because that's not true. That was the one small thing that well, not small, but one thing that you mentioned among all of the other things that you talked about.
I'm so hung up on that turnip. I should have known. I should have already known.
Okay, everyone go back and listen to 2020.
Well, now you know what?
Collab.
I almost did. I almost went back and listened, and I got back. I listened to 2021, and I didn't get back to 2020. And now I'm paying the price.
Well, 2020 was.
I don't know.
That was our first one, right?
I truly don't remember if I.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I told you guys about it or if I just read about it. I truly don't remember. So if I didn't
vaguely
talk about
remembering
it, I'm sorry.
So I think you might have.
I think now that you are saying it, that I do remember. Man.
And isn't also that it was our first year, and we also released the same episode on both feeds.
Yeah.
Because I think we all did our story. Yeah, in one recording.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah.
We're we're not getting any new listeners.
I know, right?
Okay, but I do have to tell you something.
That time, though, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it's really interesting that all of our episodes, so we've had so Brice and I talked about voodoo and traditions with the Philippines, and you guys talked about Halloween traditions and exorcism, and all of them have been so based in the misunderstanding of what our ancestors are actually all about, and how religion has kind of messed everything, or organized religion has messed everything up for everyone when it comes to Halloween and the dead. And it's I mean, truly, if you think about it, if you go back and listen to all four, we didn't mean to do it that way, but it really, that's the theme of it, is that just organized religion has just totally desecrated what ancestors and memory of the dead has really should be, I guess. I don't know. It's not that spooky, guys.
Yeah.
Exorcism is spooky.
And
exorcism is spooky.
That was spooky. Yeah.
That was really
and
spooky.
I think the Reverend there did try to help.
Yeah. He did.
Yeah, the religion there was trying to help. At least they took her seriously. But I thought it was really interesting how everything kept coming back to that origin.
Yeah, totally. Gosh, well, thanks for sharing that, man.
Yeah, hopefully I didn't bore people, but I'm like a history buff, and so when I was like, let me see what I can find on this, I really found a lot, and it was all interesting to me because I think it's always fun to see where things start from and what they evolve to, and it makes you wonder what the hell people were thinking,
right?
You know. Not to go back to the turnip anymore, but what are you carving the turnips for? Right. Where did you come with that for? What doesn't make sense?
Yeah,
but that's what they did.
I will say that I'm the least history buff person in the world, probably. Like, failed history, hate history, but this had me because it was like, oh, they used to go and ask for food to sustain them, and now we ask for candy. Like, you know, like I could see all the little connections, and so I was into an interesting holiday to me. So I was very engaged.
Oh, good.
Listening very intently.
Same.
Well, thank you for having us. We love you guys.
Thank you so much for being here.
Man, next year, I don't even know how we're going to talk. Like, we've got to evolve. What are we going to do?
We probably need to talk about
something.
it a little bit more than like 2 weeks before we record.
No, I thought this was fabulous. Like, it's been the most amazing 2 weeks.
And have a backup plan in case we lose voices.
I know.
Yeah, I know. Cristy and I sound like aliens.
No, you guys sound great.
I'm convinced it's not going to stop. It's like, this is how I am now.
It's
Get used
a new
to
norm.
it. It's a new norm. So anyway. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Guys, if you don't know, go follow What Happens in the Woods. They are our podcast besties and have been for years and years. And we have lots of Halloween collabs. If you liked this one, you can go back and listen to the years past. They have a ton of episodes. They do a segment that we love called WTF Wednesdays. So even when they're not working, they're working, which is amazing. So you can join them for all the things. It's absolutely amazing. Jess is our research queen. She does such a good job at delving in and getting the details that even we can't get to sometimes because she spends so much time on her cases, and we absolutely admire her. They're inspiring. They just did a live show at the Pacific Northwest True Crime Fest. Did I say that right?
You did. It's a mouthful.
Okay. Amazing. And had a room full of people who were supporting them, and we were supporting them virtually, and they just are killing it. They're nailing it. And we're so blessed to have them as friends and have them as partners and have them on our show. So thank you for joining us. And if you don't know who they are, please go follow them on all the things. And we appreciate you guys. We'll be back next Monday for a brand new true crime case that's coming at you. And always remember, stay out of the damn woods.
I love it.
See ya. Thanks for joining us, guys.